I want you to see how I start this video. This is from my virtual home, which is I have several homes here. They're all fairly pretty, but this is more cartoonish than, but I can look all around and see behind me. And I can walk around this home too to a point. But we're going to create a canyon now, and we're going to create it from words, and I want you to watch the second hand on a clock and see how long it takes us to make a canyon, say 1,000 feet high with many rock layers. Does it take millions of years? I'm going to show you how to do it in seconds. I'm going to click the command open, let there be. There was darkness on the face of the deep, because the deep is about to appear. And in the beginning was the Word, and music. This is a smaller world.
Welcome to Brink. Watch your step. It's a sheer 1,000-foot drop to the mighty Colorado River below. Horseshoe Bend is a dramatic and iconic example of the American southwestern landscape. The sheer cliff walls were carved over millions of years as the river cut down through ancient sandstone, eventually becoming entrenched and creating the horseshoe shape you see ahead. The river continues this process today on its path towards the Grand Canyon, nearly 60 miles downstream.
Now, what you just heard about the canyon taking millions of years from the perspective of this reality was an absolute lie, but it sounded beautiful. This reality, these canyons, took seconds to form. So how did God do it in Genesis? There it took days. If he took days instead of forming it instantly, it was for a reason. He's portraying by the drama that recorded there something important for us to understand about a message that he wants to get to us. But you've just seen, you're witnesses now to a reality that can be created in seconds by thoughts, and this reality is gigantic. And it has all kinds of energy and all kinds of mass in it. It has things that exist. By our definition of proving their existence, we can look at them, we can feel them. They maintain their shape. They fall according to the laws of gravity. They fall. We're using the scientific method to see, does that rule ever not work? No, it works all the time here. Every time we drop these things, they fall toward the earth. Mass attracts other mass. So we can do this over and over, and this is how we get a scientific law, something that's never disproven. If it's ever disproven once, then it's no longer a law. However, there are situations where things are disproven and give wrong results, and yet they're kept, one of which is radioactive dating, because the rocks created at Mount St. Helens about 40 years ago have been dated at over 2 million years by radiometric methods. Diamonds, which were thought to be millions of years old, have radioactive carbon in, which means less than thousands of years old. These rules are never broken. My goodness, this must be the ultimate reality. These things must be true. You have a sample here of a reality within a reality where the scientific method can be used to prove that this reality, these laws never change. But you know, and I know, if I take the headset off, if I leave this reality, or if I'm the programmer and I change the laws of this reality, then suddenly everything changes. For example, when I take this rock on which the light shines, and I can prove that by using the scientific method to show everything here is lit by that sun, yet if I take this rock and put it away from the sun in the dark, it still shines. How about that? The sun's shining down, but this is in shade, and everything in the shade is dark except for that rock. Well, that's a miracle. No, it's not, but it's working the same way that God did his miracles, because the rules written for these rocks were let them be illuminated, and that was left on regardless of whether they were in the dark or in the light. It's the rules that are controlling things here, and that's exactly what God describes about him in relation to our reality. He makes the rules. Well, the one who makes the rules has absolute power. And if you take the oculus off your head, you realize that he's also omnipresent, because there is no restriction from him exiting this reality. There is no reality outside of God. Do you need fantastic space to create our reality? No. The headset's probably an inch or two thick. And yet we're in this, and so if we move around, my goodness, we're moving a whole lot farther than 1 or 2 inches. I'm going to come back up here to the front now. Well, what was that? That was about 10 feet. So we could use the scientific method to prove. We could bring a measuring tape here and say, my goodness, this reality must be at least, well, this section alone is about maybe 30 feet wide. We can prove that with the measuring tape if we bring a measuring tape here, and we can walk all around it. Well, this is extraordinary. This must be a gigantic reality. Now, they've only mapped this little section. It's probably about 10 feet in diameter, maybe 10 to 15 feet. But if they extended the application, probably in a few years, they could do that. The memory tends to double every couple of years. We could map out the whole canyon. And then what would you say? Would you argue that this reality must have taken so much energy to form? No, it takes rules to form. So we're doing a show and tell version of how to create a reality and how the scientific method works within the reality. It only works consistently if the rules are held consistently. But if you do something as a change to the rules, if you edit them, suddenly you're performing miracles. Just as I'm able to use this one because I played around with rocks and found they left the instruction on for these things to receive illumination regardless of where they were. And that was, it should be shut off. They need to add more programming this to make the rule that it be shut off if it's put in the dark. So if we didn't know those things, if we didn't know this was a reality within a reality, that people had written the rules for this, we would say this was a miracle. This is how miracles are done. God said he could make sons of Abraham from these stones. Think about that for a minute. Let's bring these back over here. What are these stones? These stones are made of words. You know that because we've looked at the outside of the oculus, and you get the concept that the oculus contains programming, which is basically words. It's encoded in ones and zeros, but the ones and zeros are used to create a language. The letter A, capital A, was an ASCII code, American Standard Code for Information Interchange, 65, which can be translated into binary. Similarly, all the other letters of the alphabet, capital letters, small letters, all the standard characters on a typewriter, were also assigned numbers, which can be translated into binary. So if you want to present text such as a letter in a computer system, you, at its lowest level, you translate it to binary and pass it along there. That's how we can use a binary structure for memory. On-off, anything that represents an on-off, a two-state situation. That's how we translate binary into something encoded in matter. Do you need matter to make thoughts? No. Why? If you believe the Bible, God had thoughts before He created anything. And He spoke before He created anything. And He called everything into existence. Can God think? Of course He can think. Well, how much can He think? I would say He can think a lot. Jesus said the hairs on your head are numbered. That's a lot of memory. That's a lot of thought. That's the kind of thought you would need to build and maintain a reality like this. That is exactly the kind of mind you would need. And what we do with computers is simply imitate what a mind can do, but it does it without any fuss, without any emotion, so we can control it and make it do whatever we want. So we have an application now which makes this canyon, and it makes it within seconds every time I press begin and open. And I can close it anytime I want. I can end this reality and destroy it by saying I want to quit. And now I'm back in my other reality.